So what we've tried to set up here is just to demonstrate two slightly different fencing systems. So the first here on the right is a 3-line system that typically you use for managing sheep within whatever pastures you're wanting to graze. It's a temporary system you can put up and put down in a 12, 24, 36 hour window. It just allows you to increase impact, more density of feet and mouse per hectare, and then you would just strip that down again, take it away and rebuild it someplace else. And generally you need to have 2, 3 or 4 of these in the system to allow you to move your mob around. This here is typically what we would use for managing cattle. So we'd either run it off the Polaris, or we can walk it out with the reel sitting on the stand here, and we use this as the reel stand or an anchor post or a further subdivision post to allow us to break blocks down to whether it's a 12-hour allocation or a 24 or a 40-hour allocation, depending on what it is we want to achieve over the landscape and the number of animals we've got per hectare. So that's roughly the overview of the hardware. What makes it work is getting enough power from your Gallica energiser. 2 top tips: make sure your earthing system is built right, and make sure there's enough joules of power in the system. You're maybe better spending a touch more money in the energiser. It's an awful lot less. It's more time efficient and a bit less frustrating if you've got more power than less power. Less chance of things breaking in and going wrong. People tend to buy lots of reels, get really excited, and then skimp on the energiser. And the third point would be make sure you invest properly in a decent quality polybraid that will conduct power. You do not want to use a cheap wire because it doesn't run power, and if you're joining up different systems, you cannot get the output voltage on your final set of reels. So that's the sort of 3 top tips. I've got 3 different wires in here. So I've got a kind of Tarragate braided wire, I've got a Gallica Videoflex 9 braided wire, and I've got a Videoflex 6, which is a woven wire. So a lot of this conversation is, all this is doing is conducting the power from the energiser. The bit that makes the system work, the plastic posts are holding the wires up and down. This bit here's where all the money's at. And when we're setting these up, we're all either using this polybraid or we're using that one. There's more conductive wires in it. It doesn't fray and unwind itself. It lasts a long time. We've got some of these that are 7, 8 years old now. And as long as you're not drop kicking the reels about the place, they still go. They're really good. This woven wire unwinds itself, so it's not so handy. So that's yeah. To get a proper wire in that, you're about £100 per reel, there or thereabouts, depending on volume what you're buying. The cattle systems. Reel sits on there. There's that. It just got a 90-degree corner, Jamie, take down the bottom.
All over the corner.
Yeah, a wee corner set up in. And what I've also brought today, I haven't brought brand new shiny kit. All the kit I've brought, we're using all the time. It's farm worn. So, because you see so many demonstrations, it's all new and shiny. Well, the reality is it's going to have to work every single day. You know, so there's a wee bit of wear on that, with the brake slipped a wee bit, but that wire on this is years old. Energiser, which was just set there. Always just tie these wee wires up a wee bit when I'm moving them around so they don't get damaged in transit. The top wire always carries the cleanest power because there's generally less debris on it, less on fuel systems. That's them all clipped onto there. I need to set up an earthing system. So what I thought I'd quickly talk through is the pros and cons of setting this up. So this here's, when I turn it on, will be live because this is not a dummy. I can set this up on a stand if I want to. Right, first earthing pole. It's nice soft grounding fife. This is great stuff. I haven't even hit a stone yet. And then chap them in a wee bit more. I tend to find when we're building earthing systems, we're better working with 3.15 mil plain wire. It just runs power better, you have better connections. High tensile's fine, but it's always a bit of a fiddle to work with. Continually getting tied in knots and various things. So that sits on here. Screw that up and make sure you get a really good connection on here, because this is what makes the entire system work. And then move round the next one. Right, screw that up again. And we'll take the end to the third one. And then just drop that in there. Connect this tail onto here for the earth system. So what we want to see here is how many volts we've got running on the fence. 9.2 thousand. This is a 2 joule energizer. And what we tend to find with these solar units is you need 2 meters of earthing pole for every joule of power on the solar unit. So ideally I should have 4. Now there's not a massive weight in wire on this, so to test how efficiently this is working, I would then come along here and put the tester on the last earthing pole, and it's not reading a single thing because there's no ampage, there's not enough weight of wire, and there's no earth draw. So there's more than enough earthing systems on this for the weight of wire that's in the fence. If we're putting in a 4 joule unit, we tend to stick in 8 of these in series to allow the fencing system to work. And basically it's a seesaw. The more amps you've got in the earthing system, the less volts you've got in the fence. So you keep putting in earth poles till your last pole reads 0.2 or ideally 0, and that's you get the maximum output from the energizer onto the fence line. And getting the earthing system right can make the difference between running maybe 3 or 4 of these sets or 4 or 5 of these sets of reels. So it just allows you to cover far more hectares. So more often than not, when electric fence systems are not working, it is earthing systems not heavy enough and not well enough designed in the ground, and or somebody starts off with a 10 joule unit and means the energizer, they get really excited about rotational mob grazing, and then they keep putting more and more and more wire onto the fence, and eventually the weight of wire on the fence is far greater than the capacity of the energizer. I need to upgrade at that point. If this is going right, we're on about 9,000 volts in here, which will then drop depending on how many sets of reels you're running out and how much wire you're actually out in the system. So going back to the polybraid quality, if you're on a high quality polybraid, you can run out more meters of polybraid and still keep the voltage high, because there's a things called ohms resist. In the wire you get a resistance which is measured in ohms, and then a poor quality wire, even I've seen poor quality high tensile wires that came out of Mexico or various places like that, and the purity of the wire is not good, so you cannot get the current to conduct down it. Even with 50 joule units it doesn't work. So energizer working right, you should be outputting about 9,000 volts. Earthing system dictates how efficiently that power is then put down the fencing line, and then it just depends how many meters you're building. I tend to think an S200 is a very good sized energizer for general farm application. S100s can be a wee touch small, not flexible enough. You want to grow and muscle the system a bit, there's not enough capacity in it. S400s they're good, they're bigger, but they're a wee bit clunky to get around. This is a really good starting size, it's just really quite flexible. You can control cattle behind power 3,000 volts. Cows tend to behave themselves. Sheep you need 4.5 to 5,000. Occasionally you need 9,000 just to remind them who's in charge. off an S200, you could probably comfortably enough get 3 sets of triple lines off of this. You could probably run out, I would say that's nine reels. Yeah, it's probably about 9 reels off it. So if you got tall covers and you get undergrowth and it's wet touching it, that'll drain power, so you won't get maybe quite as many meters. Yeah, I would say probably 3 systems, Jamie's, is as much as you'd get out of this one. If you're needing to build more than that, you're going up to the S400s, where we've run 5 to 6 systems off of that. Other things worth bearing in mind is, during the summer months, these are solar energizers. There's a small 12-volt battery that sits inside them. The solar panel's charging the battery. The technology inside the energizer regulates the pulse. So if there's plenty of charge sitting in the battery, you're pulsing every sort of 3/4 of a second or thereabouts, and the wee green light in the back of this shows you that. When you start running into the shoulders of the grazing season and into autumn, through winter, into early spring, day length in Scotland shortens quite a lot, and the solar panels struggle to keep up with the amount of energy we need to be delivered into the fence. So what we would do on farm is we sort of monitor the flash of the green light, and when it gets to about a 4-second pulse, we then go and whip the battery out, put another battery in, we take that battery home and put it in a trickle charger for 2 or 3 days and just top it back up again, because the moment the battery gets too drained, it becomes inefficient and doesn't hold current, doesn't hold ampage in the battery. So we swap that over, and you have to watch that in the winter time. Time you get back into middle of March, day length's about 12 hours, the system's up and going again. It's just a nuance of probably Scottish climate. Lifespan of one of these reels, well, it depends mostly, firstly, how abusive you are. If you like to drop kick them off a buggy, throw them around the place, you might get a couple of seasons out of them. If you treat them with a little bit of respect, if you wind the wire back on them properly, if you don't fankle and tangle up and stuff, I've still got some reels that have been going for about 7 years here. The reels will last a long time. Occasionally we might want to replace the wire. I mean, the wire, I've turned this off, yes I have. The wire in this one's seen quite a bit of use. Some of it can bobble it a wee bit. The problem with the bobbling is that the wire will still work, but when you're reeling it back in again, it's a bit of a drag. So at that point, I just start changing wires out. But on the whole, Jamie, reels should do you 5 to 7 years. We come across quite a few people that invest in cheap reels, do them a season and a half. I don't see the sense in doing that. You're always turning kit over. Just invest properly in day one. You can generally pick up a sheep system someplace £300 mark thereabouts. Cattle systems, a bit individual reels, they're going to be a bit cheaper. It's all kind of location specific. So just get in touch with us at www.poweredpasture.co.uk and we can sort it out from there.